Benny Hill became one of the most recognizable figures in British comedy, largely through his long-running television program, The Benny Hill Show, which blended slapstick, visual gags, parody, and musical interludes into a fast-paced variety format. Across several decades, his work reached massive international audiences and helped define a certain style of physical, wordplay-driven humor that translated easily across language barriers. Hill's appeal rested heavily on exaggerated expressions, rapid chase sequences, and a rotating ensemble cast that amplified the chaos of his sketches. At its peak, his program was broadcast in more than 100 countries, making him one of the most globally distributed British entertainers of his era. However, his legacy is not one-dimensional. While many viewers remember the show for its energetic humor and catchy theme music, later audiences and critics increasingly re-examined its treatment of gender roles and sexualized comedy. This tension between popularity and criticism forms the backbone of his cultural legacy. Understanding Hill's career requires looking not only at his comedic innovation but also at the shifting social values that eventually reframed how his work was perceived. His career represents both the heights of mainstream television comedy and the challenges faced by entertainers whose material spans rapidly changing cultural eras. Early life and foundations of performance. Born in Southampton in 1924, Benny Hill grew up in a working-class household where entertainment was not initially a guaranteed career path. His early family environment, however, carried subtle influences that would later shape his comedic instincts. His grandfather had worked as a circus clown, introducing a lineage of performance and physical humor into the family background. Hill's father worked in a surgical appliance shop, providing a stable but non-entertainment-oriented upbringing. During his school years, Hill showed no immediate indication of becoming a performer, instead taking on ordinary jobs after leaving education. He worked at retail positions, including at Woolworths, and later took on a variety of roles such as milk delivery, driving, and mechanical work. These early experiences exposed him to a wide range of social environments and personalities, which would later become material for his character-based comedy. Even before entering professional entertainment, Hill displayed an observational awareness of human behavior that would define his sketches. His eventual adoption of the stage name, Benny, reflected admiration for American entertainer Jack Benny, whose timing and understated humor influenced Hill's developing style. These early years laid the groundwork for his eventual entry into performance, even though the path was indirect and shaped more by opportunity than planning. Military service and performance training during wartime. During the Second World War, Benny Hill was called into military service, an experience that significantly broadened his exposure to structured teamwork and performance discipline. He initially trained as a mechanic in the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers, where he worked on maintaining military equipment and vehicles. This technical training required precision, patience, and problem-solving skills, qualities that would later influence his approach to timing and construction in comedy routines. Hill also served in roles such as truck driving and searchlight operation, placing him in active wartime conditions, including deployment during the Normandy campaign. These experiences exposed him to high-pressure environments and diverse groups of people, both of which sharpened his adaptability. A crucial turning point came when he transferred into the Combined Services Entertainment Unit, where performers were tasked with boosting troop morale. This marked his first structured involvement in professional entertainment. Within this unit, Hill gained first-hand experience in performing for live audiences under challenging conditions, often with limited resources and unpredictable settings. He learned how to capture attention quickly and sustain engagement, a skill essential to his later television success. The wartime environment essentially functioned as a training ground, blending discipline with creative experimentation and helping shape his future comedic identity. Radio beginnings and early career development. After the war, Benny Hill transitioned into the entertainment industry through radio, which at the time was one of the dominant forms of mass communication in Britain. His early appearances on programs such as Variety Bandbox allowed him to test comedic ideas in front of national audiences. Radio required strong vocal timing, clear delivery, and the ability to create imagery through sound alone, all of which helped Hill refine his expressive skills. Although he later became famous for visual comedy, this period strengthened his foundational sense of rhythm and pacing. His success in radio gradually opened doors to television opportunities as the new medium began to expand in popularity. Early TV appearances in the 1950s introduced him to visual storytelling, enabling him to combine spoken humor with physical gestures and exaggerated facial expressions. This combination became central to his later style. However, his early career was not without inconsistency. Some performances were well received, while others struggled to gain traction, reflecting a period of experimentation and adaptation. Despite these fluctuations, Hill steadily built a reputation for versatility. His ability to shift between character types, accents, and comedic tones made him a flexible performer capable of adapting to evolving entertainment formats. Transition to television and emergence of a signature style. The rise of television transformed the career trajectory of Benny Hill, providing him with a platform where visual humor could fully flourish. Unlike radio, television allowed him to integrate physical comedy, props, and choreographed sequences into his performances. Early television work demonstrated his willingness to experiment with different formats, including sketch-based episodes where he played multiple roles. This versatility helped him stand out in a competitive industry. His performances began to rely more heavily on exaggerated physical movement, slapstick humor, and rapid comedic timing, all of which became defining features of his style. During this period, Hill also developed his use of recurring characters, each designed to embody exaggerated traits that audiences could instantly recognize. The transition to television also coincided with the broader expansion of British broadcasting, allowing him to reach increasingly large audiences. As production techniques improved, Hill's sketches became more elaborate, incorporating staged sets, musical numbers, and ensemble choreography. These developments set the stage for the eventual creation of a dedicated program centered entirely around his comedic identity. This shift marked the beginning of his evolution from a versatile performer into a television institution with a distinct and recognizable comedic language. Formation and BBC era of The Benny Hill Show. The official launch of The Benny Hill Show on the BBC marked a major turning point in the career of Benny Hill. Premiering in the mid-1950s, the show adopted a variety format inspired by traditional music hall entertainment, combining sketches, musical performances, and recurring characters. The BBC era emphasized live performance energy and simplicity of production, allowing Hill to focus on timing and character-driven humor. A rotating cast of supporting performers contributed to the show's dynamic structure, helping bring sketches to life through reactive comedy and ensemble interaction. Hill frequently portrayed multiple characters within a single episode, showcasing his ability to shift personas rapidly. The humor relied heavily on slapstick, misunderstandings, and visual exaggeration, often concluding with chaotic ensemble sequences. During this period, the show developed its foundational identity, establishing many of the comedic patterns that would later become globally recognized. Although the format evolved over time, the BBC years provided the essential groundwork for Hill's television legacy. The program's success during this era demonstrated that his style of comedy resonated with a broad audience, setting the stage for future expansion and international distribution. ITV transition and international expansion. When Benny Hill transitioned The Benny Hill Show to ITV in 1969, the program underwent significant structural changes that contributed to its global popularity. Instead of weekly episodes, the show shifted to hour-long specials, allowing for more elaborate production values and extended comedic sequences. This change gave Hill greater creative freedom to develop complex sketches, musical performances, and choreographed chase scenes. The ITV format also benefited from improved production budgets, enabling more sophisticated filming techniques and location shoots. As a result, the show's visual quality and pacing became more refined and cinematic. During this period, the program gained widespread international distribution, eventually reaching audiences in over 100 countries. The universality of physical comedy played a major role in its success, as visual humor required little translation. Hill's ability to combine satire, parody, and slapstick made the show accessible across cultural boundaries. This global reach transformed him into one of Britain's most internationally recognized entertainers. However, the expanded platform also intensified scrutiny, as larger audiences brought more diverse cultural expectations and interpretations of his comedic style. Comedic style and production techniques. The comedic style of Benny Hill and The Benny Hill Show was defined by rapid pacing, exaggerated physical movement, and carefully constructed visual sequences. One of the most iconic elements was the chase sequence, often concluding episodes with frenetic movement across multiple settings. These sequences used undercranking, a filming technique that sped up motion on screen, enhancing the chaotic and humorous effect. The show also relied heavily on musical cues to guide transitions between sketches, reinforcing rhythm and comedic timing. Hill frequently employed visual gags that required no dialogue, making the humor accessible to international audiences. Supporting cast members played crucial roles in amplifying comedic situations, often acting as straight characters reacting to absurd scenarios. Costuming and staging were also central to the humor, with exaggerated outfits and props enhancing comedic contrast. The combination of choreography, timing, and editing created a distinctive television style that was highly influential in sketch comedy. While the humor often appeared spontaneous, it was in fact carefully structured and rehearsed, demonstrating a high level of production discipline behind the apparent chaos. Controversy, cultural shift, and public backlash. As cultural attitudes evolved, the work of Benny Hill and The Benny Hill Show began to face increased criticism, particularly regarding portrayals of women and sexualized humor. Sketches that once passed as light-hearted entertainment were later viewed as outdated or inappropriate by changing audience standards. Critics argued that certain recurring comedic tropes reinforced stereotypes and objectification, sparking debates about the boundaries of televised comedy. One of the most frequently cited concerns involved scenes featuring pursuit-based humor, where women were often portrayed in suggestive contexts. As public sensibilities shifted during the late 20th century, these elements became central points of controversy. The broader cultural environment increasingly demanded more sensitive representation in media, and older comedic formats struggled to adapt. While many viewers continued to enjoy the show's slapstick elements, others reassessed its content through a more critical lens. This divide contributed to declining support in certain broadcasting circles and growing discomfort among executives. The controversy did not stem from a single moment alone, but rather from a cumulative reevaluation of the show's comedic language in a changing social context. Decline, cancellation, and lasting cultural impact. The eventual decline of The Benny Hill Show marked the end of an era for Benny Hill, as shifting cultural expectations and broadcast priorities led to reduced support for the program. By the late 1980s, television comedy was moving toward more dialogue-driven and socially conscious formats, leaving less space for traditional slapstick revues. As criticism of outdated stereotypes intensified, broadcasters became increasingly hesitant to continue airing the show in its existing form. Although still popular in many international markets, its presence in the UK diminished significantly. The cancellation reflected not only changing tastes but also broader transformations in television production and audience expectations. Despite its end, the show left a lasting impact on global comedy, influencing later sketch programs and physical comedians who drew inspiration from its timing and visual inventiveness. Hill himself became a symbolic figure representing both the success and limitations of mid-20th century television humor. His work continues to be studied as an example of how comedy evolves alongside society. Even after its cancellation, the show remains a reference point in discussions about humor, censorship, and cultural change, securing its place in entertainment history.